Glenmorangie X versus Glenmorangie 10. What are these like, and which way should you go? Stay tuned for the Whiskey Whistle. What up, my whiskey people? Mark Kaufman here for Whiskey Whistle on YouTube, sharing a little whiskey awesomeness from Winnipeg, the center of North America, bringing you a 2-up of Glenmorangie and taking things back to the very beginning. My very first review was this very bottle. A lot of reviewers, a lot of bloggers, a lot of YouTube reviewers' first bottles on their, their platform was Glenmorangie Original, which is interesting. And then we have this new release that they've put out last year called Glenmorangie X, which is no age statement, 40%, and they say it's made for mixing. Well, I want to just compare and see what these are like. This is $62 here in Manitoba for the Glenmorangie X. And Glenmorangie Original 10 is $72. So a $10 differential. After taxes, $11.40. Let's get these poured. Yeah, roughly about the same amount there. What a difference in color. So we're going to start with Glenmorangie X, and then we'll compare that with Glenmorangie 10. So stay tuned and let me know your thoughts if you've tried either or both of these. And for bartenders watching, have you tried mixing with this? What's it like? I think I might grab a can of club soda in a minute or two as we get into this towards the end, and then see how X does just in kind of like a mini highball serve. We'll just do that right in the Glencairn glass. Maybe I'll get a glass from upstairs. Perhaps I will. Let's have a look at the color first of all between these two. And when I look at that Glenmorangie 10, I'm beginning to feel like it's practically natural color. Now they don't say that, but 10 years and they only use first and second fill ex-bourbon barrels. They do not use third fill. So that is very close to natural. It might be a little bit embellished just to keep it the same color from batch to batch. Now, I don't know much about the X, but probably a little bit more color added there, given that it's younger. Let me just look at that bottle here. They say pair its sweeter and richer taste. Maybe they used a bit of virgin oak. That could very well be. We'll check out the legs here. I think I maybe poured just about 40 milliliters. Okay, so what do we see for legs? These are both 40% ABV. They sheet down due to the low strength. Not much going on there. A little bit of legginess beginning. It looks as though a little bit more beefiness with the X over with 10, but yeah, roughly on par with each other, isn't it? So we'll get into the whiskey now, and what we'll do here on Whiskey Whistle is we'll check out the nose, the palate, and then the finish, neat and with water, and then give each of them a Whiskey Whistle whiskey score in turn. We'll start with 10, go through the whole tasting, give it its Whiskey Whistle whiskey score, and then, with X, and then go on to 10, nose, palate, finish, and then with water, and then a Whiskey Whistle whiskey score at the end of that. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to Whiskey Whistle and hit the bell as well. Ding, ding. That way you're notified of future Whiskey Whistles. In doing so, you will be one of a very select group of about 20% of viewers who are subscribers to the channel and who get all of the updates and all the new videos the day it comes out. And if you're enjoying Whiskey Whistle and you're watching a lot of my content, then why not do me a solid and check me out on Patreon, or pardon me, Patreon, patreon.com/whiskey whistle, or on buymeacoffee.com/whiskey whistle, and join the Whiskey Whistle crew. You'll get your name in the credits at the end of each video. You'll also get advanced viewing of future Whiskey Whistles like this one, and with enough support, you will earn yourself a Whiskey Whistle Glencairn. And as I mentioned in my previous video, I'm also in the process of getting some t-shirts printed. All right, well, time to get into this Glenmorangie X. Let's check it out. Now, I'm coming off some cask strength whiskey. I better refresh my nose a little bit with some coffee here. Whoops. Okay. Okay, that's the coffee. And we'll take a swig of water too. Ready. The nose. Being a person who now predominantly focuses on 46% and up whiskey, sometimes some 43s. For example, from Glenfarclas, from Jura, for example, Dalmore. So 40% is really not what I'm about these days, but I love Glenmorangie. I love Glenmorangie. Whoops, no, you can't see that, can you? Whoa. I've got a Glenmorangie hockey stick. Let's get that standing. There we go. And I've got a Glenmorangie tote. I'm sure you don't. Okay. And I've probably got the largest collection of Glenmorangie reviews on YouTube, I'm thinking. Pretty close anyway. Maybe not Luis, my buddy down in Brazil, who may be in New York still. Anyway. Whiskey Brazil, I think is his channel. How you doing? So it's pretty mild. It's fruity. There is some nice sweetness in there. Quite mild, quite light. Some canned peach. A little bit of fresh, juicy orange. Some syrupy sweetness, a touch of vanilla in there. A little bit of cardamom. A bit of ginger. And something like a custardy peach Danish tart. All right, let's check out that palate. Cheers, folks. Really sweet, really peachy, almost like the canned peach syrup. Despite its nose being very, very light, it's pretty flavorful for 40%. I think we do have some virgin oak casks there, and a lot of first fill barrels. The finish is sweet, pretty lengthy, a little bit zingy, a little bit youthful zinginess to it. And I don't recognize it so much as Glenmorangie that I'm familiar with, but I can see the similarities there. Should we add water? I mean, is there a point? Well, I always have, so I won't stop. I was about half a teaspoon. No, sorry, pardon me, half a milliliter. Like 1/10. Yeah, 1/10 of a teaspoon. With water, you get a little bit softer sweetness. It's just really, really very light. Very innocuous. Very plain. The palate, however, pretty good. Reminds me of blended Scotch whiskey a little bit. Something like Chivas 12, but not as good. Oops. Okay. One more sip. But it's flavorful. It's actually flawless. There is really nothing negative about this at all, other than maybe a little bit of its age, which you get at the end of the palate into the finish. It's a little bit fizzy. Now that's been tempered with a lot of water added, hasn't it? And because it's 40%, not the water that I put in. All right. So time to give this a Whiskey Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie X. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 81 out of 100. You heard it. 81 out of 100 is the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie X. Now, time to get into Glenmorangie 10, the original. Again, that was my first review way, way back in the summer of 2015. It was my first review because Glenmorangie, in a way, is what got me into this mess with Sonalta PX. And then all of those extra matured. And then 18. And then Signet. And then after that, I tried my first bottle of 10, which I then reviewed. All right, so the nose for Glenmorangie 10. It's much more fragrant on the nose. Now, it's still very quiet. Now, if USA gets this at 43%, that'll make a big, big difference. A little more citrus, a little bit less of the peach. A little bit of spice coming through as well. A big dollop of vanilla. A much more present nose, but again, comparing to cask strength, which jumps out of the glass, this basically just slowly emanates from the glass. All right, on to the palate. Cheers. Again, this is flawless. It's just lacking in oomph. I'm getting some nuttiness that you don't get on the X. And I think that's showing its age. The beginnings of Rancio. A nice balance of sweet and astringency. Fruit and creamy sweet notes. The finish is a little bit more forceful. It doesn't have that zingy youthfulness. It's got a nice, lightly tannic, sweet, fruity, spicy finish that trails a pretty good length. That's a solid medium finish. But some peach, some citrus, some nice vanilla in there. Pretty nice, pretty nice. Whoops. Okay, let's add a few drops of water. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. A little bit of leather coming through on the nose. A little bit of bookshelfiness, library books. All those other flavors that we had when it was neat, the peach. A little bit of, quite a lot of citrus actually. The palate with water. Oh yeah, the leather is really kicking up here. And a lot of people talk about Glenmorangie 10 being really complex for its age. And I'll say that it's very mature for its age. You get everything and then more nuttiness. More of those bizarre, unusual notes of leather and books. Who eats leather and books? But if you ever played baseball with a real pigskin leather glove and you've chewed on those ties, then you've tasted leather before. Or at least you've tasted the tanning chemicals and, you know, all that, I don't know, weird leathery juice that's inside the leather. Coming back to this after practically 7 years, and I occasionally taste this if I'm at a bar and that's what they have. If I'm at somebody's house and this is what they have, and I enjoy it. But sitting here and comparing it with whiskeys that I just had, it's definitely lost a little bit of its appeal for me. And I don't know, maybe I'll buy another bottle in a couple of years, but that's going to last me at least for 2. So. But again, it's nice. It's flawless. It just needs more oomph is what it needs. And I would pay the extra. That 3% could make a big difference. 6% would turn this into a showstopper for 10-year-old ex-bourbon matured whiskeys. And I think if I'm truthful to my audience, I would say get that when it's on sale. Serve that to your family who aren't really into whiskey, and they'll enjoy it a lot. But if you want a nice ex-bourbon craft presentation, get Deanston 12 would be my suggestion. And there's a few more. Anyway, on to the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie 10. What is that going to be, folks? It's going to be 83 out of 100. You heard it, 83 out of 100 is the Whiskey Whistle Whiskey score for Glenmorangie 10. It's still good. But in today's day and age, there's a lot of choices out there. But price to quality, it's very, very high. And I think 83 points, I mean, I've given it a lot higher before. I think 89. The flavor is definitely there for an 89. The strength is a letdown for me in 2022 after 700 reviews since number 1. Anyway, let me know your thoughts. What do you think of X? What do you think of Glenmorangie? Oh, that's right. We want to add a little bit of something in there. Hold the fort. All right, so we're going to add some ice. and some club soda. One more cube. Let's do it. Okay. Let's get these cooled down. That's pretty good. All right, and then we will add some club soda, thus making some little mini Japanese style highballs. Woo! Looks great. And this is like the end of May here in Winnipeg. It's summertime, and I'll definitely be having a lot of these. Look at the color differential there. This is practically white. And this totally tells me the color is one of the main things that they wanted to showcase here. Let's try this first. Actually, no, you know what? We better start with the 10. I want to try the 10 first. Whoops. A little bit of nice whiskey notes coming through. Very light. Oh. But you know, it's a nice whiskey for a highball. It maintains its sweetness. And that is a no sugar. Very lovely. Very nice, let's say, aperitif, before dinner kind of a drink. And would be very, very well paired with spicy food, because you're not going to get that afterburn of mixing whiskey at full strength with really, really hot spices. Okay, now how about the X, Glenmorangie X? That's this guy in a little mini highball. Again, there's less going on the nose. Oh yeah, but much more flavor in the palate. Beautiful vanilla and peach coming through right into the palate. Now these are probably a little bit less, not quite as strong as I would like them. Let's add just a splash more. And a little bit more club soda. Yes, very light. All I'm getting is the citrus on the nose. Very much. Well, I gotta say, I think that that's going to be very, very popular in Japan, and with the price of Hibiki Harmony, I think that's going to gain a foothold in Japan for the highball, the whiskey highball scene. Just a tiny recharge there. Yeah, much more fragrance coming out here. honestly, in cocktails, for sure, this Glenmorangie X is going to do great things. And I think if you are, if you're a bar or restaurant owner, and you put a fancy cocktail with Glenmorangie X on your menu, 1.5 ounces in a, I think a 12-ounce glass, a 12-ounce highball glass would be great, or 2 ounces in 16. And you're going to charge probably about $20 for a cocktail like that, especially if you're adding, you know, some Cointreau or some other citrusy, or, you know, whatever other types of liqueurs in there in your cocktail. Bitters as well would be interesting. Speaking of bitters, look at that. I've got lime bitters here. Should we try it? Yeah, let's try it. Dylan's Lime Bitters. We'll add 1 drop. Whoop, that was 2. I failed. And go like that. Oh, yes. I mean, the bitters take care of the nose. But, you know, not a lot of patrons smell their cocktails, do they? Oh, yes. Well, hope you enjoyed that. So I think it does a good job in cocktails. It kind of falls a little bit flat on its face for just for neat pours. You want to stick to Glenmorangie 10, and if you've got the budget, maybe go for something like Deanston 12 if you're really getting into whiskey. But again, this is nice to have on hand for company, for easy, just relaxing, enjoyable drams with something that's as flawless as that in an ex-bourbon maturation. Well, I sure hope you enjoyed that. Again, my name is Mark Kaufman, and you're watching Whiskey Whistle. I'll see you next time.